Okay, so welcome everybody. We are now focusing on, this week we're focusing on two things, and one of them is going to be LinkedIn for Business. And I have a very special guest, somebody that I've known basically via Twitter, and his name is Jason Miller, and he is in charge of content strategy for LinkedIn. And besides his very cool role of working at LinkedIn, I'll let him tell you a little bit about his background when it comes to, I think, rock and roll and entertainment before LinkedIn. And Jason, I'm going to let you take it away and tell us about your background and how you ended up at this cool position with LinkedIn.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. So, interestingly, I have a background in B2C marketing, but I'm a B2B marketer now. Well, now I do a little bit of both. So, but I used to work at Sony Music Entertainment. I used to play in a heavy metal band, like a big hair metal band, and then Nirvana came out and killed that genre around 92, 91, 91, 92. So I had to find a different gig, and so I started working. I graduated college, started working at Sony Music Entertainment, and decided to live vicariously through the artist instead of being one myself. So I did that for 12 years in the industry. We all know the battles of the music industry. So it was getting depressing. It was getting really bad. The industry was fighting a technology that they quite frankly didn't understand, and they embraced way too late, right? So then I started in the world of tech at a little company called Market Tools, moved over to Marketo, and LinkedIn called and made me an offer I couldn't refuse. That's how I ended up here.
Great. And you also just wrote a book, so tell us about your book.
I did. So this is beard like week 6. My mother's a Native American, so I have a real problem growing facial hair. So if I look a little bit rough today, I'm in the middle of this and I can't go back. But I wrote a book called Welcome to the Funnel. If you are a Guns N' Roses fan, you'll know the cover. Hopefully I don't get in any trouble for copyright violations. But basically, this is kind of who I am. I'm like a rock and roll guy. I love rock music. I shoot concert photography in my spare time. I write a music blog. This is how I dress at LinkedIn. I mean, and they seem to be cool with it. Unless I have to speak to some C-suites or something, then I clean up and put on a tie or something. But I wrote the book basically. It's everything I've learned over the past 3 or 4 years, from things I learned at Sony into Marketo into LinkedIn. Basically, it's a no fluff, no frills approach to getting down to the core of relevancy, creating content that drives results, that drives revenue, and using social as a channel to promote that and track it back to pipeline and revenue one. Everything in this book is stuff that it's from the trenches, right? This is not a philosophical approach. I've done all this stuff. I promise you it works, and it works from a startup all the way up to an enterprise. So all my secrets, everything I know, in one place. A quick read. I inject a little bit of fun personality with some rock and roll quotes and some storytelling, some anecdotes, and some illustrations from Fiverr that was really fun. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, awesome. So let's get into the Q&A for LinkedIn for Business. And the students here are in a class called Social Media Management. So they're they're going to be out in the world of managing social media, whether it's for themselves or for a brand, or for an agency. So Jason, I just did a workshop and I focused on LinkedIn. And I
hmm
don't know if I told you this, but I titled the workshop LinkedIn Blue is the New Black, because I really feel like LinkedIn has had this rebirth over the past maybe year or two. And so tell us where LinkedIn is today compared to where it was yesterday and where we're going with it from a business standpoint.
Sure, it's a great question. So I've been here almost about a year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half now. And when I first joined, I run content for global content and social for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions specific. So LinkedIn is divided up into Talent Solutions, which is the recruiter tool, which we're all very familiar with. The LSS, which is LinkedIn Sales Solutions, which is the sales navigator tool, which is essential for any sales reps. And then LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, LMS is what we call it. And when I got here, my job was to tell the story of the marketer on LinkedIn, right? Because there was this preconceived notion or the stereotype that LinkedIn was only for finding a job, when that's certainly not the case. The strides we've made in content and content creation and content publication, where LinkedIn has positioned themselves to become the definitive professional publishing platform. And what that means is this is a professional mindset. Our members. We did some research and we found that they are looking for content to inspire them, content to help them be better at what they do, content to just make them better marketers in the case of marketing. So I tell it's been a really interesting transition to move from what people think is the online resume to this definitive publishing platform. But again, it's your online identity. If you're a professional, then and your presence isn't felt, isn't made, isn't optimized on LinkedIn, then I think you're simply missing opportunities. One other thing, we think of it. This is how when I do speaking engagements, I talk about it like this: like people spend time on other social networks, right? But they invest time when they're on LinkedIn. So you could think of it like that. Again, it's the professional mindset. It's a completely different level than you'd see on the other social networks. And yeah, it's great for content. It's great for advertising. It's great for connecting with that professional mindset.
So if you're a social media manager, just to kind of expand on where LinkedIn fits into the equation of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and how do you decide how you dedicate, what time, what resources you dedicate to LinkedIn? Where are the pieces of the puzzle going?
Sure. Well, there's a number of free resources you can use. Excuse me. Well, where I think you kind of lay the foundation for success, right? So first and foremost, you have to have a company page. The company page is your hub. It's your company's identity, and that's great that's going to be where you publish your content. You can publish your content there, and then there's also showcase pages for individual brands that kind of branch off of that content hub. But simply, optimizing, filling out your company pages, some really great ones to model off of. You can look at the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions company showcase page, specifically the LinkedIn company page is a great example. Moz.com. Rand Fishkin does a fantastic job with his page. Marketo, the usual suspects. Kapost, HubSpot, Eloqua, list goes on and on. So those are some people who I think are doing a really great job, which is just sharing content through their company page and their showcase pages. SlideShare is another opportunity. People think of SlideShare as a SlideShare where you post your visual presentations, your visual content, infographics, etc. People think of SlideShare as simply a content repository for their webinar slides, when it's not the case. SlideShare, in my opinion, what I've seen people driving success with it around are viewing it as a visual content thought leadership platform, right? Where you can share these stories in a visual way, in a very quick and fun way. And then, of course, it embeds everywhere, and there's lots of cool stuff you can do there. But SlideShare, company page, and then we get into, once you establish your company page, you're sharing content there. Maybe if you don't have enough content, original content, you can curate content, influencers program. I mean, there's so many different things. Sponsored updates is our core product, one of our fastest growing products, which is where you take a company update, sponsor it, target it, for lead gen, for brand awareness, event registration, etc. And then one of my favorite things, the most exciting thing, and maybe most relevant to this class, is the publishing platform that we just opened up to all members. So now you can publish long-form content on LinkedIn tied to your profile, share it with your network. This is LinkedIn is a place you can brag a little bit about yourself, right? Be proud of your accomplishments, showcase them on your page, optimize your profile. As a marketer, I couldn't think of a better place to put everything together in one spot.
So seeing that we're juniors and seniors and about to graduate and join the workforce in the real world, so what would you suggest from a personal standpoint what their profile should look like? What are some pointers, and what are maybe some fails that you can give an example of maybe businesses, but focusing first on the personal side of LinkedIn? What are some do's and don'ts?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Like, I wrote a blog post for Convince and Convert for Jay Baer, who I know is a friend of yours, called "7 Reasons Your LinkedIn Profile is a Hot Mess," and it was kind of calling out those pitfalls. It was making making light on some kind of some things that I noticed. If you have when somebody. If you reach out to somebody for a job, for a sale, for a deal, for a connection, whatever it may be, this is your best foot forward, your LinkedIn profile. They're going to look at your profile. They're going to look for a nice headline. They're going to look for description. They're going to look for relevant skills. But the most important thing is just having a good headshot. If you don't have a professional headshot, if you have a headshot and you're at a barbecue or something, you crop out your friend next to you. People look at that and you want to have it's very easy to get a professional headshot these days. You can even take it with the iPhone with a nice background, but Put your best foot forward there. Make sure that you have a description. Make sure your skills are filled out. If you have a network, if you don't have any previous experience, that's a different story. But if you have experience, ask for those recommendations. Those are incredibly powerful. But there's just so many opportunities to kind of showcase your best talents and achievements on your profile.
But recommendations, they don't necessarily have to come from somebody that you were employed by. They could come from a professor. They could come from somebody that you did community service with. It's really somebody that had some sort of a professional interaction, not necessarily a paid professional interaction, right?
Absolutely, that's a very good point. And again, I think it's just important. You get out of this what you put in. What do you put into it? And I think people forget that. People. I think sometimes that marketers or even some new graduates just think, oh, if I create this thing, it's going to take on a life of its own. Very much like a social media channel or a blog. That's not the case. You get out of it what you put into it. So Joe Chernoff actually wrote. Joe Chernoff, the VP of Content at HubSpot, excuse me, just wrote a great post on how he achieved 25% more page views in a little challenge he had internally with Kip over at HubSpot. So I think it's literally called "How I Achieved 25% More Page Views," and it basically walks you through. I can't believe I wish that I would have wrote this post, but it walks you through just 7 quick tips and steps to optimize your profile for to be found.
So speaking of optimizing, we're just touching on search engine optimization, but there's such thing as social media optimization. So within LinkedIn, can you just kind of explain how keywords affect how people are searching within the LinkedIn network, and how important the content and the words that you choose to describe, whether it's on the business page or whether it's on the personal page, how does that work within the LinkedIn network?
Well, it's all about it's similar to there's a classic blog post called Chocolate Donuts by SEO Moz, and it's the perfectly optimized blog post kind of pointed out, and you can see where they put the term chocolate donuts, what they're trying to rank for. They don't overdo it, and it flows naturally. So the same can be applied to your LinkedIn profile. But when in your headline, this is your chance to not just say senior marketing manager here or whatever, but to call out how do you describe yourself in a headline? Right, and think of go pick up a copy of the New York Times or People Magazine or whatever. What are those headlines that are describing those articles that are pulling you in? The same thing can be thought about yourself. That's the most important thing. As I mentioned, a really well done headshot should be simple and easy. And then peppering the keywords that you're looking for. Social media manager, social media marketing, peppering those through your description and throughout your profile. And then with the publishing platform, you can now put a couple of posts up there. It doesn't necessarily have to be original content, but though we encourage that. But put your thoughts up there. Tie it back. This is the complete package here. So don't force it in, and just make sure it flows naturally. And again, nobody can do a better job at describing yourself than what you write down naturally. So just make sure there's no grammatical errors, and that it flows nicely, and that it's split up nicely throughout the profile.
Okay, and the publishing platform that you're referring to, so just so the students understand exactly what that is. So that's basically like you have your own personal blog attached within your LinkedIn profile that you can publish as often as you want. How does that work?
Exactly. So we just opened it up to all members. So you might be familiar with the Influencers program, which is a locked set of influencers from Richard Branson to Conan O'Brien, business leaders, CEOs, et cetera, et cetera. But we open that up so that all members can actually publish long-form content now. So the idea there is under your updates, status updates, when you're updating or sharing content, or whatever. There's a little pencil icon there, and you click on that, and it opens up into a WYSIWYG, blogging kind of platform, very similar to a WordPress or a Blogger. And put an image in there, put your thoughts down, and write your heart out. And then what happens there is it goes into your network. It gets shared with your network, and it can be viewed by anybody, any of the LinkedIn members. And if you get a little bit of a spark, you get a little bit of an action, a little bit of a trend going there with a good post, maybe a really inspiring marketing post or something. It could possibly get picked up by Pulse and get put into the news feed there, which you could go from a couple hundred views to 15,000, 100,000 views overnight if that happens. So, and just one quick point on that. I think people, when I first started blogging, one of the biggest hurdles that I found was people were afraid to put their words out there because they might be judged on it. And I remember my first blog comment like it was yesterday. I was scared to death. But once you get over that, once you put your thoughts out there, you really kind of get comfortable and you get addicted to it. It's really good to get input from other folks and comments and get these conversations started and ask questions. And if you have a problem as a marketer, you write a blog to solve it. That's some of the best content I've ever seen. And don't overcomplicate this. Don't overthink this. Right? A blog post can be 350 words. Look at Seth Godin. Every day he writes about 250 words, and they're brilliant. So if you have a blog is one thought, it's one simple idea. It could be a question, it could be an anecdote, but it's your thoughts, and the world is what you make it. Don't hate the media, become the media, as Jello Biafra famously said.
I love it. Okay, so and to get into Pulse, so Pulse would be when a blog post within LinkedIn gets picked up and gets expanded into a much larger network. What has to happen to get picked up by Pulse? Does it have to be views, or does it have to? What triggers that?
Well, there's an algorithm, so I really can't speak to the exact how the algorithm works.
Come on.
But I will tell you, there are categories, right? So you can go into the categories. Anybody can go look at the categories and see the posts that are trending there, and they get picked up by Pulse. So it's just like any other aggregated news source. It filters through what's trending, what's hot, and what looks to be a good article that might be inspiring to other LinkedIn members.
Could you be just starting out, let's say one of our students, and have just a beginner type of network and still get picked up by Pulse?
It depends. It's all based on the algorithm and based on on the post itself. But again, I always tell people this. I said, don't go in with crazy expectations, because that's not how you get ahead in this world, right? But you can start right now and make an impact this afternoon and make a bigger impact 6 months from now, but you certainly have to start sometime. So whenever, don't force the blog. When you have something to say it, and make sure it's written well, and make sure it's written in your voice, and make sure it has a little bit of your spin, or how you differentiate yourself from the rest of us.
Okay, and the students, viewers here on this interview, so they pretty much grew up with social media, and maybe growing up it was to be very cautious on what they shared on social media. So just from my experience from last semester of students, when I was trying to get them to open up on LinkedIn, some of them were concerned. They wanted to keep their LinkedIn profile on private or have as much privacy as possible. So what do you say to that? Is there a benefit of keeping your LinkedIn profile on private?
That's the personal decision. Based on the user or the member. I can't really speak to that except to say that I think of LinkedIn personally as a place for connecting with other members and staying in contact. But I make myself readily available to anyone who wants to connect with me if they have a reason, and if I think that there's a beneficial connection that we have there. So I personally don't see any benefit from keeping a professional LinkedIn profile behind closed doors. I think it's for the world to see.
Would you say that the majority of the users on LinkedIn keep it public? Is there any stats?
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I don't know. I would guess so. That's probably a question for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The bigger question for LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, Jason, do you have any other words of wisdom that you can share with they're about to enter the real world of whether it be social media management for an agency brand or their own personal social media management?
Yeah, again, write every day, write as much as you can. I think the most important, the most important quality of any good marketer these days is being able to write and communicate well. That will never ever go away, right? All these trends in social and content and whatever the next flavor of the month is, the core of content will always be good writing, and the core of communication and a good team is always going to be good writing. The other thing I would say is, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the relationships I had and the networks I built. So first and foremost, get out there, hustle, meet as many people as you can, go to as many events as you can, and make as many connections as you can. Because again, I think in this world, everything. If you're going to excel, if you're going to do well, you have to have a solid network and you have to have good relationships. The last thing I will say is and I write about this in the book a lot. This concept of the hybrid marketer, the Renaissance marketer, if you will. Now, what I've learned, and I wish I would have known this a long time ago because I had a lot of catching up to do. But as you move through your career, you don't have to be an expert in any one thing. What you do have to know is how many different things work together, right? So, am I an expert in SEO? No, but I understand SEO very well when it comes to social and content. Am I an expert in demand generation? No, but I understand how it works. I understand market automation. I could give a course on it, but I'm not an expert. But the bigger thing is, to understanding as a marketer how all these things piece together, how PR works with social, how content works with demand gen, how SEO optimizes all of this stuff. I took a bunch of coding classes last year because I wanted to understand how the web read my content and delivered my content, and I took CSS to figure out how the web was actually interpreting my content. Do I really use it? I can code here and there, but I'm an idea guy. And at the end of the day, when you have all those pieces working for you, you're unstoppable. So I think that's probably the best piece of advice.
That's great advice. And so if somebody wanted to get a job at LinkedIn or an internship, is there somewhere on the LinkedIn website that talks about that?
There are so many great opportunities at LinkedIn. We have, if you go to LinkedIn, just search on LinkedIn jobs, you'll see all the boards pop up and all the opportunities. And LinkedIn Marketing Solutions specifically, we had a couple of interns here. We're always looking for good talent. So I tell you, I've been at LinkedIn for a year and a half. I've never been happier. Best career move I've ever made, and it's a great culture, a great place to work, and I think they make sure you are productive, successful, and happy. So it's a good place to be. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to help out.
Okay, great. And you're also on Twitter. And what's your Twitter handle?
Twitter, Jason Miller CA. So I'm either stuck in California or Canada the rest of my life, right? So.
Okay, and any recommended reading as far as downloads? I know LinkedIn you have a lot of great, since you're the content strategist, you have such great content. What if there's like 2 that you could recommend that the students check out and I'll download for them? What would that be?
Yeah, the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn, which is the all-encompassing guide to everything you'd ever want to know about marketing on LinkedIn. So the first thing I wrote when I got here, lots of third-party validation influencers, but it's written very strategically, and it's not a giant instruction manual, which was the goal. And then the second piece we just finished here a few months ago called The Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Thought Leadership, which is a deep dive into thought leadership, again, written very strategically. And 2015 is the year of the personal brand, as you well know. If you don't know what you stand for and you don't know how to differentiate yourself, you're going to either be beat out or miss an opportunity that you that you may or may not, that you probably deserve. So personal branding, thought leadership. If you have something to say, now's the time to stand up and say it.
That we'll just end on those words because those are very powerful and true words. Definitely.
Perfect. So, awesome.
Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we're going to be doing a giveaway for one of Jason's books, so watch for that. He's going to do a signed copy. And with that, Jason, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.